NERDSoul.
Yeah, lay ill kid at OneYoungsta holding it down, bringing that street geek and nerd. So what is up, my people? Today, oh yeah, another wonderful episode of specials, man. We chilling. We got the on-screen movie reviews, got the thing going on because we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of Wesley Snipes' Blade. You know what I'm saying? And I know people will be like, "Oh, it's Marvel's Blade." Yes, yes, yes. It is a Marvel movie to a certain degree, but Wesley Snipes made this thing come together. And what we're doing is basically just taking it back a little bit, remembering our first time enjoying this film. I got some awesome folks to come on. Got Jason Reeves, Dan Drew. We got, Coop from Blerd-ish. We got a whole bunch of cool people, and Stephen Harris, a whole bunch of awesome cast to come through and just talk about their first time enjoying this film and just going down memory lane. And I'm gonna go on and set it off with a couple of thoughts of my own. The first time I saw Blade was at a. If you're in the Richmond, Virginia area, shouts out to RVA. If you remember the drive-in theater that was out Southside Plaza, I saw the double feature with Blade and Lethal Weapon 4, I believe. Yeah, it was Blade and Lethal Weapon 4. And I went into it not knowing who Blade was because I didn't. A lot of people saw the, what is it, the Blade episode of Spider Man and also knew him from the comics, but I did not know him from the comics, and I didn't see the episode with Blade and Spider-Man until after this movie. So, all I knew when we were getting ready to go see the film, we were coming together, and I think my friend's mom was asking me if I wanted to go, and I was like, oh, well, what's playing? They were like, Lethal Weapon 4, and I was like, okay, Lethal Weapon's pretty good, and they were like, this movie called Blade, and I was like, what's Blade? And they were like, it's a Wesley Snipes film. And once they said Wesley Snipes, I was like, word. Because, look, I came up in the 80s and 90s. Wesley was my dude, you know what I'm saying? Drop Zone, Passenger 57, you know what I'm saying? Always bet on black, baby, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I did. I bet on black, and I came out the winner that night. Look, I was like, Wesley Snipes? Psh, yeah, we say less, B, say less. Cause look, I'm telling you, I know we ain't got really we ain't got the same butt kickery that we do now. But back in the 90s, you know what I'm saying, Wesley Snipes was holding it down. You know what I'm saying? Wesley Snipes, he was beating up people left and right. So homie had the martial arts skills on him. And couldn't nobody talk to him, couldn't nobody stop him. Shouts out to Money Train too. But anyway, I go to the drive-in. We're chilling. Still don't know anything about Blade, and the movie comes on. And sorry, they did say it was vampire stuff. And I've always been, a fan of like supernatural action, supernatural horror, stuff like that. So they said vampires. They said Wesley Snipes. I was like, cool. We go in there, and honestly, I could have done without any of the Lethal Weapon part of this double feature. I was completely fine with it. I was like, yo, look, this opening scene, my dude, like, I just remember being so impressed and so blown away about what in the world I was seeing on the screen, because not only was it action, but it was done in such a way where it was visceral, from like the blood dropping on the from the blood drops that we got all over the floor while the guy's trying to crawl away, and then I mean, even the setup, shouts to Tracy Lords, like, she was like a big sex symbol back in the day. But anyway, like, you got the guy kind of crawling almost within an inch of his life. There's blood dropping all over the place. The vampires seem to be like taking, I don't know, joy in just kicking him around and stuff like that. He's a plaything to them. It was truly scary in the way they ran it off and ran it down, and then to see the reaction of their kind of happiness and their glee while they're like kicking him on the floor, and then to seeing Blade where everybody's like, oh, hold up. Oh, so, and that's how you introduce a character, man. Like the introduction, you introduce the threat, you introduce the hero. It was just done in such an awesome way, man. Wesley Snipes killed that role. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Blade 2 is fire too. But that opening, it was so gritty, this dirty, like old meat packing, factory or something like that. It's dirty, it's crusty, it's people like all around sweating and stuff, and then the dude getting bit and well, not bit, but like beat up and like punched and kicked all over the ground. Like they definitely like to play with their food, but it was so vivid and so just terrifying to see someone imagining you being in that situation, and then to see Blade show up and all of their, I guess you could say, countenance change. Like all of them like immediately was like, oh snap, hold up, we got a real threat. So that opening just killed it for me, man, and the movie did not let up after that. Like my boy SP, the Soul Prophet, dope producer, he said all gas, no brakes, and that's what I want from a movie. And this movie had gas, man. From that moment on, they did not stop. And from an action fan, from someone who loves supernatural action, loves comics, like this movie brings them all together in such an awesome way. It was almost like the script just said, kick butt. And look, this is a family show, so you know what I'm saying, but it's like the script just said, Blade kicks butt for an hour and change. And that's it. Because once that scene goes, it is flames.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Keith Cooper of Blerd-ish. I was asked by Mike to give my thoughts on the anniversary of Blade. A very unique movie, one of Wesley Snipes' best. High action, great action. A little bit of humor with some great lines. The ice skating line. Can't go wrong with it. Wesley Snipes never made black leather look better. Blade 2 is even better. It's great. Blade 1 and 2. Blade 3 not so much, but still beats a lot of movies to this day. It wasn't really marketed as a superhero movie. It was more of a horror film slash Hong Kong actioneer. So, it wasn't the start of the proper MCU. I know there's a lot of people who love to say that. I get it. It's cool. But what it is, though, is fantastic. And, it was produced by New Line Cinema when Marvel was selling off his properties and doing bad. And this helped everybody. So I see why Marvel wanted to buy those rights back, because who wouldn't want Blade in their lineup? Hell, he can be really used right about now. Who wouldn't want a black vampire kicking Dampier, Daywalker, who uses martial arts and slices people in the head? Honestly, you can't do much better. And Blade is just one of a kind. Hopefully they can make one for the new generation. Things are a little murky right now, the production, but all in all, if you haven't seen Blade, if you listen to this, I'm pretty sure if you listen to Mike, you probably have, but just in the off chance you haven't, go watch all 3 Blades. It beats most summer movies in the past, I don't know how many years. You can't go wrong with it, especially the classic of Blade 2. I mean, you talking about running fades, giving them out, handing them out, serving them like free water. That's what Wesley Snipes was doing. So that's just my quick thoughts on Blade. Enjoy.
On my first viewing of Blade, from frame one, I knew the movie was going to be legendary. The bloody Daywalker scene in the club, but one of my favorite scenes and one of the blackest scenes ever in cinema, this is when I knew this movie would be a classic, is when Blade goes to the hospital to recapture Quinn, and Quinn is wreaking havoc, and Blade goes to cancel his ticket for good, and then the police shoot at Blade, but Blade is already prepared because he know what it is as a black man, so he got the vest on, and the vest takes all the slugs. But Blade looks at the cops and says, "Emma Effa, is you crazy?" And I knew, I was like, this is a classic right here. This is the greatest movie of all time. Blade to this day is still Jason Reeves' top 5, you feel me? Y'all should go watch it today. Happy birthday, Blade, 25th anniversary. Let's go.
Well, considering it came out in 1998 and I was 8, I definitely did not see it in theaters. I am not entirely sure when I first saw it, but I'm relatively sure it was on TV at some point. Like late at night or something, maybe like TNT or something, I don't know. I mean, I remember loving it. And again, I'm not quite sure, since I'm not sure when, I'm not sure what context Marvel anything was in my head at that point, because, I have no idea when this was. But I remember it being, dark and bloody and, violent, and, I think the one thing I probably remembered the most was the swords, because I love katanas and, samurai and stuff like that, so my brain probably would just I went to, the video store, saw the cover of the movie or something, and maybe that was, when by the time it came out on VHS, I saw the cover, I was like, oh, the sword and everything, it was cool, and then I saw it on the TV randomly at some time at night, and I was like, oh, this is cool, and I probably wasn't allowed to watch it, but, my parents didn't really pay attention to really what I watched on TV that much, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, I just remember liking it, and I'm sure I watched it again properly, when I was older sometime later. It was definitely ahead of its time.
How dare I forget this? I want to give a special shout out to English Wright. She played Dr. Karen, and my God, whoo! Look, this is why, you low key insult to Blade saying, "Oh, it started the MCU." So you know what they don't do in the MCU? They don't put Dr. Karens in the movies anymore. Hardly. First of all, this is how you know Blade was a grown movie. First of all, it was R-rated. First of all, she was smart, beautiful, dark skinned, intelligent. She solved the problem of the movie, I guess, of how to kill Deacon Frost. So she was intelligent, right there with Blade with all the madness, and she was fine. Look, y'all, if anything else, even if you ain't know nothing about no Blade, you know who the hell Marvel was or what, you know what you saw and you know what you liked. So shout out to her. Keep bringing back the Dr. Karens of the world and put them in movies. Excuse me, or give us more ambush rights. Cast this well. Marvel, hey, maybe you should get some more R-rated fare and stop with these with this madness. Slide us some blades from here and there. So that's been my time. Just wanted to give extra love to one of the reasons that made this movie work so well. Don't forget Dr. Karen.
I just remember this movie being incredible. That Wesley Snipes brought a swag to the superhero game that just was never there before. And he broke his foot off in this role. The ass kickery that he performed in this film was amazing. And it touched my soul. My cinematic soul. He did his job.
I had no idea what Blade was when I went to see it 25 years ago with my cousin. He was a big comic book fan. I was just going along for the ride. He told me it was going to be good, so I believed him, and it was. I had no idea what to expect. The movie blew me away. Wesley Snipes did his thing. It was just gritty. It was gross. It was fun. I just had a great time looking at it. And I would have to say that it was probably one of the things that influenced me later on in my writing, because to be able to see something like that, to see a black character like that, which we hadn't seen before that time. I mean, just doing his thing and being everything that he was something else. Really enjoyed the movie. And hey, you know, like I said, it had a big influence on me.
Blade, phenomenal movie. When I first saw it, it blew my mind. Seeing Wesley Snipes in there and being a cool action hero, tearing up stuff, being a badass, and then a black woman I won't say alongside him, just was something to behold when I saw it back in '98, 25 years ago. It was awesome. I loved it. The first one I loved the opening scene of him in the club. I loved the second scene of her in the hospital. It's the shots, the dynamics of it all. Even though it was an indie-like movie, it's just so much was taken from it, I think. And for it to be not given the credit it's due for this boom of superhero movies, every time I see someone mention X-Men or the MCU, someone in chat has to bring up Blade, because otherwise no one else is bringing it up. Blade was the movie, Wesley Snipes the man, and Ibushi Wright was the woman.
I remember watching Blade and thinking to myself at the time that I wanted to read the script, because I wanted to see how the action was written on the page. I wanted to write something that exciting, especially that opening scene, you know, when he's in the club and he throws the star around the room and comes back. And by the time he comes back, all the vampires are dead. And I kept thinking, I want to write something like that, where it's like blood soaked, you know. It was very, in some ways, Ninja Scroll inspired. And I kept thinking, man, I want to write scenes like that.
Yo, so the first time seeing Blade was wild, because I actually didn't see it. I heard the soundtrack and then I seen the movie like later on, so I didn't get to see it until it actually came out on video and DVD and stuff, I believe. I lost my daggone mind when I seen Wesley as Blade, because it was something so new that I didn't know how to act. And he wasn't the typical black superhero. He wasn't clowning. He wasn't subservient to anybody. He was strong. He was taking out vampires and everything. And I just lost my mind, because I knew about him in the comics, but I didn't really take everything in. So, I mean, it is what it is. Because I couldn't read and buy everything back then. But when 2 came out, it was all over again. So 2, I seen in the movie theater like 2 or 3 times and everything. I was not missing out on that. So, shouts out to Wesley and Blade, and we love it no matter what. Blade is always what it is. Peace.
Another thing that I think made this movie so classic and so memorable, it's like this lived in very tangible world. They did so much without special effects, and don't get me wrong, this movie has special effects, but there was just so much done around this world that made it look lived in and oily and dusty, and like the factory where Whistler's kind of rapport with Blade, you know, like even like when he's giving him the flashlight and he's like, it's kind of heavy, he's like, but you're so big, like, you know, like those attitudes towards each, you know, between the characters, those interpersonal relationships really helped this thing just sink in for me, man. The doctor who, man, and Boucher Wright, beautiful sister, but man, did she or did she not turn around in this film? We get this lady who's like, what in the world's going on? What is happening? I got bit. Blade's throwing me across to another building, to someone who was like using the light to torture whatever the librarian kind of vampire was. I can't remember what her name was or his name. I think it was a her, but you know what her name was, and just saying like, well, you know, she moved. So these kind of things where even him using the doctor as bait, all of these things come together into a world that seems just so real, for them, like so real, and they follow their rules. And on top of being so like dusty and oily, there's no real savior coming for you. It's Blade, and Blade isn't even, like he said, this ain't the March of Dimes. You know what I'm saying? So those kind of things that come from a black man, that that those sensibilities, that attitude, even like when the cops shoot at him in the hospital, when he turns around and asks them if they lost their mind, like it's just a very black thing. And this movie was black. It was a very black movie. The guy that Snipes goes to, or that Blaze goes to get his serum, that's a brother. They got the glyphs. He's, of course, Blade is a brother. And Boucher Wright, Chocolate Sister, she's not like the CW type of casting. If you watch my show, you know what I'm talking about. It's all of these things that just, these images that flood my mind when I'm watching it for the first time, and just impressing me. Because I mean, in 98, when it comes to kind of sci-fi stuff, horror stuff, you're not really seeing us as heroes. You know what I'm saying? And also not seeing us as heroes where we step into a room, the villains back up and give pause. Like, I mean, look in the movie, man, Deacon Frost has to become the blood god before he's able to kind of really go after or stand toe to toe with Blade. And seeing even Sanaa Lathan as his mom, I mean, seeing so many black faces in here, and not portrayed in a way where they were stereotyped or pigeonholed as a certain person. You had these people be actual fully realized people in this world. Even when Blade uses the doctor as bait, like all these things where it just works so well, man. The club scene, going behind, seeing, the little kid that, kind of traps him and starts fighting with him, one-on-one to a certain degree. It's so many things that just scream out unique, individual, and just iconic with this film, man. I love this film. I really do, man. This film is too good. One of the best things that Marvel has produced, but also not produced, and also pretended like they don't have nothing to do with it. But it's even been said, it's been documented, that if Blade were not successful as a film, we would not have gotten the X-Men films, and then of course after that, the rest is history. So it is a honor to look back at this movie that is 25 years old, man, and it's an honor to give Wesley his flowers while he's still here, man, to a man that has made a whole bunch of dope movies that I love. Like, this is just one for the books, man. A classic film that not many can top at all. Like, as far as straight up comic book movies, it's hard to top Blade 1 and 2. That's where we're going to leave it. Blade 1 and 2, those are the only movies that exist. But those two films, man, so vivid, so visceral, and frightening in a lot of places where maybe you think that this would be kind of straight up, but there's always these tense moments. Like even when when the cop goes to tell Deacon Frost, like, hey, look, Blade followed me, blah blah blah, got in trouble or whatever, and when he bites him and he's like, dude's just bleeding out, and him and his girlfriend are just like licking his neck and stuff. Like, there's tons of crazy scenery in here that's actually frightening too, because then they just throw him in the pool, and like everybody else is just like, just enjoying the carnage, and it shows you a vampire world that is very lived in, especially when he meets the council, and a vampire culture that Deacon Frost is cultivating, where they're like these almost like unchained rabid animals that will eat bleed anyone anywhere at any time, because of course they're on the top of the food chain. And so even those type of scenes where he takes them to see the sunrise, it's just, man, this movie is awesome, man. It just is. This movie is just awesome. Going to give Blade another watch this weekend, man. Enjoy it. Happy birthday, Blade, man. I hate to say this, there'll never be another one like you, because I hope there will be, but to be rated R and to do it like you did it, man, I don't think anyone else can. And shouts out to the one and only Wesley Snipes, the man, the myth, the legend. So with that said, NERDSoul, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, podcast, all that jazz. Until the next stake drives through the next heart. This is from us telling you, peace.